A new documentary regarding the murder of teenager Stephen Lawrence will be released tonight.Stephen, The Murder That Changed a Nation is a 3-part series that kicks off tonight at 9 p.m. on BBC One. Stephen was brutally stabbed to death when he was waiting at a bus stop by a gang in southeast London. The murder became one of the highest-profile racial ings in UK history, and the fallout led to massive cultural changes. What happened to Stephen Lawrence? Stephen Lawrence, born on September 13, 1974, had Jamaican parents who emigrated to the UK in the 1960s. He lived in Eltham with his mother, Doreen, father Neville, brother Stuart and sister Georgina. Stephen was an aspiring architect and was studying for his A-levels. He had spent the day of April 22, 1993 at school, after which his friend Duane Brooks joined him at his uncle's house to play games. At around 10 p.m. the pair left and made their way to a bus stop on Wellhall Road, in Eltham, southeast London at 10:25 p.m. Stephen and Duane were waiting to see if a bus was coming when a group came towards them. Stephen was attacked by the pack of white racist youths. It was heard that, before the attack, one of the youths had shouted, "What NR?" Duane started running and shouted for Stephen to escape. During the fight, Stephen managed to break free and ran about 222 meters before collapsing and bleeding to death from 2 fatal stab wounds. Stephen had been stabbed once in the chest and once in the shoulder. Duane called an ambulance, and Stephen was taken to Brooke General Hospital at 11:05 p.m. However, the 18-year-old was already dead. The day after the murder, the police found a letter in a phone box giving the names of 4 suspects. A police investigation ensued, and the police began surveillance on 5 suspects' homes. Within a couple of days, dozens of people had given the names of the suspected heirs to the police. However, Stephen's family were getting increasingly frustrated about there being no arrests. They eventually met South African President and racial equality leader Nelson Mandela in London in May 1993. Stephen's family held a press conference to complain that not enough was being done to catch the heirs. On May 7, the brothers Neil and Jamie Court, David Norris, Gary Dobson and Luke Knight were arrested. Survivor Duane identified Neil Court and Luke Knight, and they were both charged with murder. The pair subsequently denied the allegations, and the charges were dropped by the Crown Prosecution Service, CPS, in July. The Lawrence family set about beginning a private prosecution against the prime suspects, Dobson, Knight and Neil Court, in September 1994. In 1994 the police surveilled that the key suspects were found to be using highly offensive and aggressive racist language. However, the case collapsed in 1996 and they were acquitted, due to Duane's evidence being inadmissible. How did Stephen Lawrence's murder change the nation? The unprovoked racist attack of Stephen brought into light the institutional racism and failure of leadership in Britain. The case has had a massive and lasting impact on the criminal justice system and the way police investigate murders and support families. The murder of the 18-year-old boy forced the nation to look at attitudes towards race and crime. In 1998 a public inquiry was launched looking into the handling of the case. The inquiry led to the publication of the Macpherson Report, which was deemed one of the most important moments in the modern history of criminal justice in Britain. It was a massive win for the Lawrence family when the report concluded, Stephen Lawrence's murder was simply and solely and unequivocally motivated by racism. It was the deepest tragedy for his family. It was an affront to society and especially to the local black community in Greenwich. The report, published by Sir William Macpherson, gave an insight into the institutional racism in the Metropolitan Police. It said one of the problems of the case was their collective failure of an organization to provide an appropriate and professional service to people because of their color, culture or ethnic origin. It can be seen or detected in processes, attitude and behavior which amount to discrimination through unwitting prejudice, ignorance, thoughtlessness and racist stereotyping which disadvantage minority ethnic people. The report found that no police officer did anything by the way of first aid. Apart from the small amount of testing to see whether Stephen Lawrence was still breathing, when they were called to the scene. It was also found that no officers early on the scene took any proper steps at once to pursue the subjects. Their Macpherson report came up with 70 recommendations aimed at improving the attitudes of officers and hiring more black and minority officers. It led to the creation of the Independent Police Complaints Commission, which could appoint its own investigations. Crucially, it also led to the abolition of the double jeopardy rule, which meant that nobody could be tried for the same crime twice. The day after a Daily Mail front page article named the suspects as Stephen's heirs. Under the headline "Murderers," it said, "The Mail accuses these men of ing. If we are wrong, let them sue us." It took several years before Dobson and Norris faced trial for the murder of Stephen. In May 2011, review of forensic evidence found Stephen's DNA on their clothes. They were both slapped with life sentences. Dobson was jailed for a minimum of 15 years and 2 months, while Norris a minimum of 14 years and 3 months. The judge described the attack as a crime committed for no other reason than racial hatred. The Met have appealed for more information that could identify other suspects in the case.